So if you'll go to the next slide, these are all photos of cabin kitch that I took in a single room of a single cabin that Lauren and I stayed at a couple of weeks ago in Northwest Arkansas. We were thinking, you know, if other cabins can have this amount of cringy cabin kitsch, maybe we need some of our own. And so for our season 3 theme, Oceanova helped make a piece of art based on a meme that Jackson tweeted about. That, you know, maybe we can get an actual one that Hash Brown can laser cut for our own cabin kitsch. So our theme for season 3 is Live, Laugh, Love, LARP as a City State. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. There's really 2 major thematic elements that we think are important as part of Live, Laugh, Love, LARP as a City State. The first one is about node expansion. And this has really been a bottom-up emergent effort of the community and of the supply side of our network to push us in the direction of getting more serious about node expansion faster as we complete our 2022 roadmap sooner than expected. I'm actually sitting right now in a little sleepy beach town in Costa Rica. Just yesterday, I went and checked out some pieces of property with Zakk Anderson of Coordinate, who's very interested in starting a Cabin South node here. And that's just one example of the many folks that, you know, have expressed some interest in starting Cabin nodes. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk about what some of those leading indicators look like, things that have pushed us in this direction, and things that we want to double down on in the coming season. So not only do we have our first thriving neighborhood at node 0, which is actually 3 autonomous entities. We have Cabin Now Properties, 1 LLC, but then we also have our friends at Montinoso next door and Garaween, the place I live next door as well. We've begun the process of bringing on Montaya Base Camp. That's a new location in the Eastern Sierras, partnering with them and understanding what that's going to look like. We're going to start with a month of time for all of us to spend a little summer vacation out in the Eastern Sierras, which I'm very excited for. Placemakers Guild has already been, they've spun out a new nodes team that's been talking to and interviewing dozens of other organizations for future node expansion. Dave has helped us put together some thoughts on token curated registries. We're really interested in doubling down on that in season 3 and understanding tangibly what this could look like. And then, you know, the product has also shipped both physical passport cards and NFTs that can help form the basis of the membership and identification for this network. So we're already making a lot of progress in the direction, but I think a big part of season 3 thematically is about how do we accelerate this progress and really lean into node expansion. Okay. The other part of this Live, Laugh, Love, LARP as a City State theme is about progressive decentralization. It's about how we empower the guilds of Cabin to have greater autonomy and ownership. And I think what you're seeing today in the HODLers convention is going to be a great example of that, where we've had this bottom-up process of guilds proposing budgets. Governance is messy, you know, it's going to be a process for us to get there. But today will be a good example of the direction we'd like to head in season 3. So if you go to the next slide. One part of this, which is slowly loading, is you know, as part of our City State LARP, we are going to stop calling you know, our group of folks who are spending the most time working on Cabin core contributors and rename it as the City Council. And the City Council, the idea is that it's a process of progressive decentralization where we'll have representatives from each guild, as well as the members of the Meta Guild, who will be able to come together and, you know, represent the DAO. And I think the goal here is that as we scale, as we grow, we're getting beyond the point where we can just have a you know, single contiguous conversation with everyone in the DAO at the same time, because we're too big for that. And so we need to come up with structures that allow us to progressively decentralize, put as much autonomy in the hands of guilds as possible, and then create a structure through which the guilds can coordinate together. And the City Council is a step in that direction. You go to the next slide. You know, I think one way to think about this progressive decentralization is in terms of these principles of decentralized leadership. Zakk recommended a book to me called Call Sign Chaos. He's written a lot about this. I would recommend going reading some of his blog posts as well as reading this book. You don't think of the military as being a place where you know, decentralized leadership and decentralized organizations are happening. But in this book, Jim Mattis talks about the ways in which the military, and particularly the Marines, really lean into these principles of decentralized leadership that I think are going to be at the core of how we continue to grow and scale as an organization. It's about making sure that everybody has a common understanding of the mission. It's about having trust be the coin of the realm for all of our interactions. It's about guarding against over control. It's about instilling this sense of personal initiative and risk taking, rewarding people who are taking risks, being tolerant of mistakes, and ultimately having a strong bias towards action. So, I think we believe that it's not that decentralized organizations are not going to have leaders. Leadership is still important. What's important is that we have lots of leaders and we have the right leaders emerging for each situation and stepping into those leadership roles that they're the best fit for. So we'd love to turn it over to Zakk to talk a little bit more about the progressive decentralization plans, and then we'll dive into the meat of the budgeting process and the guild budget proposals.
Yeah, so I think this next season is going to be a really great phase of decentralization where we're going to move a lot of decision making and a lot of operations and a lot of execution from the former core contributor team or the city council and into the guilds. And there's a couple of tangible things that we're going to do over the next season to manifest that. One of which is actually setting up separate multisigs for each guild. And so each guild will effectively have its own treasury, distinct and separate from the main treasury, right? So this is going to help us increase a lot of transparency across all of our guilds, right? If you're on the media guild, you'll be able to actually see and participate in the treasury, management of the treasury for the media guild or any of the other guilds, et cetera. And it also means adopting a couple of tools to help smooth that transition and make things like our accounting a little bit more transparent and understandable across the guilds, right? So adopting things like Multis, which is a way for us to manage the accounting across a wide array of multisigs. So you'll be able to see, a digest of how the DAO is spending its money, how a particular guild is spending its money, and then how a particular squad within a guild or across multiple guilds is spending their money, as well as doing some other things to like reduce some of the overhead that's attached with some of this stuff. So it's very tangible things about, transitioning a lot of this stuff into the guilds and future into the squads within guilds.
Cool. Thank you, John and Zakk, setting the theme for the season.